call it to order, and if you don't mind, call the roll.
Chair Cox,
Here.
Vice Chair Hamilton,
Here.
Regent Hall, Regent Jones, Regent Powers,
Here.
Regent Stevens,
Here.
Regent Sutherland,
Here.
Regent Whitten. We have quorum.
Stand. I think we need to approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting, which was May 15th. Are there any corrections to the meeting minutes? Hearing none, may I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
We've had a motion by Vice Chair Hamilton, second by Regent Powers. Is there any objection to the motion to approve the minutes? Hearing none, the motion passes by consensus.
Thanks so much, Jessica. Appreciate it. Okay, Todd, so you're going to give us an update on the internal audit from Dean Dorton and likewise introduce the team from Baker Tilly, our new internal auditors.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. You should have a copy of the final report from Dean Dorton. Everything, we do have 4 outstanding items that we will continue to monitor from this report. 2 of them have been, the due date was changed with the agreement of Dean Dorton to the end of 2028. Those were around some of the safety and security measures. Because we put a request in with our asset preservation funds with the legislature, they provided us with $24 million in the first year and $10 million in the second year that will go toward our safety and security items. The total estimated cost of the project was $30 million. So we have the funding to do what we need to do around these items. It's now a matter of determining what we do in the first year and what we do in the second year, prioritizing some of that and actually putting that into place. So the plan was developed, the funding has now been received. It's just now putting that into place by the end of the second year of this biennium. So those 2 items are in progress and we're working on them. The other 2 items are around student financial aid and the fraudulent activity issues that we've had. One of them is some software. We had gone out for RFP for some software to try to address the issues. And what we determined is that it relates to the second item. The federal government is actually trying to develop a tool to try to help catch some of this. And so there was concern that we would enter into a contract with a company where we would be paying for something that would eventually be done by the federal government at no charge. So we continue to do that. Again, those dates were extended to be able to try to figure out what that looks like, but we don't want to move forward with spending money on a new software solution to try to address this if the federal government is going to create something for us where we don't need to do that. So the items have been addressed. The timeline was agreed with Dean Dorton. Everything else from their report was wrapped up by the end of June. So with that, I would stand for any questions that you may have regarding the internal audit report.
So Todd, this is kind of, I think what I heard you say, this ties up all the loose ends from Dean Dorton and the transition over, is that correct?
It does. These few items are still outstanding because we still have to do them yet. But we agree with Dean Dorton. These are in progress. We're working on them. And we will keep you apprised of those things until we do come to full completion on them.
And as we make the transition, will they now fall under the reporting that we're going to get from Baker Tilly, or is Dean Dorton going to stick with these until they're complete, or how are you transitioning, I guess?
Yes, and we're kind of in some of those beginning negotiations. Baker Tilly will talk a little bit about where they are in the process, and we will talk with them about how this moves forward. And so we have just gotten that information back to them from Dean Dorton, and so we will work with them to determine how they would like to work with us to present that to you.
Okay. As long as we're just intentional about it, I'm fine with it. I mean, whatever works, we just want to make sure that we're, that we're including it as in the transition.
Correct. Correct.
Good.
Any other questions?
Okay, see, hearing no other questions, then I would like to turn things over to Kimberly from Baker Tilly. We went through a fairly extensive RFP process, and Baker Tilly won the RFP. We negotiated a contract earlier this year. They've come on since July. Been great to work with. And so Kimberly, I'm going to turn it over to you to introduce yourself, talk about your team and the process.
Sure. Thank you, Todd. No, thank you all for having me. Thank you for the time to speak. I've got a brief presentation to go through just to introduce who we are as Baker Tilly, our role as internal audit, and then where we are in our first few months with the new relationship. So for a little bit about me, I'm Kimberly Macedo. I'm a director on the Baker Tilly Higher Education team. I've been working with higher education institutions leading outsourced as well as co-sourced internal audit for the last 17 years. So we're really excited to get started with KCTCS. I'll tell you a little bit more about what we've been doing as part of our onboarding, but I'll go ahead and screen share, and I'm happy to answer questions as they come up, or I can wait till the end if there's any questions as I go through. Let me know if everyone can see this okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Todd. So jumping right in, just a little bit about who we are as a firm. Baker Tilly is the 6th largest accounting firm in the US. We also have team members specialized just in higher education, so very knowledgeable. This is what we do with many institutions across the US as well as international locations. We've got a few data points on the slide here, but I also wanted to focus more on the right-hand side, just sharing a sample of other institutions we work with, including system institutions, large public institutions, as well as local smaller institutions, just to show the variety. We also serve private institutions. But the great part about this and what I want to highlight is we use it in our conversations and our audits when we're working with KCTCS to say, here's kind of what we're seeing at other institutions. It's a great benchmarking tool. What are some ways to implement these ideas within the system if it fits within the culture and the ideas, just to have some strategic lens to how we do our audits and reviews. But I also wanted to highlight who is the team dedicated to KCTCS. So you can see the folks listed here. We're all located out of Washington, D.C. So I will be working very closely with Ashley Deere, who's the engagement principal, about 20 years in the higher education world, and she leads our higher education practice. Also Mike Cullen, who's focused on IT and cybersecurity. I'll be working really closely and supported by Joe Swindler, who's a senior manager on our team, who will focus also on IT and cyber audits, and then Kelsey Foreman, who's the manager, who will focus more on financial and operational review areas. The right-hand side are our subject matter experts. We just included an example here of areas that might come up. So depending on risk assessment conversations and areas that are identified for audit for the year, if we need to pull in other subject matter experts, here's some examples of folks that help us. For example, student success with Caitlin Andrews that we can pull in as needed. Where I wanted to spend a little bit of time just on this update is our internal audit philosophy, just kind of setting expectations on who we are as an internal audit function. So we follow the internal audit guidance, the new global standards for internal audit, and really our main objectives is to be an independent, objective third party. We're coming to look at overall risk management practices, internal controls, and governance across the system with the goal of identifying those risk areas and helping strengthen effectiveness. So helping identify what are the higher risk areas, what are ways to strengthen those across the system. We do this in a practical, strategic way. So we want to make sure that our recommendations align to the culture of the system are actually realistic. So if it's things that require additional resources, that there are resources the system has or maybe is planning to implement in the future, and aligning to those overall expectations, which is why we're starting to do listening tours now and meeting with leadership to really understand the culture more across the system. We also take a big collaborative approach when we're working with stakeholders as part of our review and work. So that means we don't want to be seen as a policing function as internal audit, but really working with stakeholders to partner with them, partner with leadership, partner with you all as the audit committee, to identify what do you see as key risks? What are your biggest concerns? How do we prioritize those and make sure we're still maintaining our independence, but taking a deep dive in that so our audits are truly adding value and addressing those concerns. Last couple items I want to point out is just overall communication. So we want to make sure we're transparent in what we're communicating. If we're in the process of an audit and we're seeing more significant risk areas, we want to make sure we escalate that timely. So we're not waiting until we get to the reporting phase and having those conversations with stakeholders so it gets the attention it needs. But also throughout our process, we're soliciting feedback from stakeholders on the audit process. How is it going? Anything we can change to improve? We're always big on continuous improvement throughout our relationship. We know we're just getting started. So we've got templates, tools in place, but if there's things we're hearing, no, we'd prefer to see something a different way, happy to make adjustments there. Last part, I know I've mentioned the word partner a few times, but again, just want to hone in on the partnership here and working collaborative across KCTCS to make sure we can have those candid dialogues. Folks can come to us when there's concerns around risk areas and overall strengthening accountability from an internal controls process to help the long-term success of the system. Any questions there? I know I'm speaking a lot of words to the slide. Yeah.
Just a couple things. And first off, welcome. Happy to have you part of this. I always make sure that audit committee members and myself and everyone is kind of on the same page as it relates. This is a function that reports to us as a board of regents.
Correct. So we report to the audit committee as well as working functionally with the board, but we report up to the audit committee. Right.
And that, I think that's an important thing that we need to make sure that we're reinforcing with the entire board. Our expectation, I think, as an audit committee and as a board is that there be very much a partnership between you and Todd and a working together, you know, in a way that's beneficial. I guess the other thing I would add is I feel like we've come a long way over the last, I'll say 3 to 4 years in viewing the audit process as very much an educational sort of process for us internally. And I think that's something we want to reiterate, that, you know, it's not a police function in my way of thinking. If it's done poorly, it's a police function. But we do expect that hopefully you all can bring things to us, to our attention, that maybe we could do different, better, and educate us so that we can be better at what we do. And I think the biggest word for us as a group is we've moved to a very much a philosophy of transparency as it relates to this. We want to be a complete open book. So I think all of those things, you talk about your all's philosophy, I think that's some of what comes from us as to where we have been over the past, or grown to over the past 3 years. But education is important to me as a committee member here, to as much education as you can provide us in this process, the better.
Great. I appreciate that, Regent Cox. That's very helpful feedback, and happy to, as we go through our audits and have audits to report out on, we can share that an educational component, kind of how does this compare from a risk scale, and how does this compare to other institutions we work with, to give that more, I'd say, well-rounded background versus just targeted on the specific area. Kind of what does this mean to the system?
Yeah, and I think that's beneficial to Todd and his staff too, to be able to, you know, have that as a resource to, you know, to improve.
Agreed. Yeah, thank you for that feedback. Any other questions on our role and reporting structure? Okay, I'll keep going. I just have one more slide, but happy to answer more questions at the end. I did want to share where we are in kind of our first 90 days working with the system. So we've had kickoff conversations with Todd and the team, and process of scheduling what we call listening tour and risk assessment conversations. So we're reaching out to the president's leadership cabinet to talk through where do they see risk across the system. Once we get through that information, we'll start to aggregate, okay, how do we want to prioritize what we're hearing as far as risk areas? What was mentioned often, what are we seeing in the higher education environment, the political environment, things to consider, and where would an audit add the most value related to those risk areas? And then from there, we'll develop an audit plan. We're working on have that tentative plan in the fall. However, we want to make sure we include Jessica and her team, Mallory from the ERM side, are working on a risk assessment survey that will go out in the fall. So we want to also use that information to inform our audit plan. So we'll have a tentative plan. We'll also look at the survey results and work to present a finalized draft plan to the audit committee in December. I know there's some new members that will be coming on board, so I think that timing should work well to share what we're planning and make sure it's informed from those leadership conversations and survey results. Any questions on that as far as kind of where we're focused on those conversations and developing an internal audit plan?
Are you seeing anything that remotely looks like a trend in your early listening here?
I will say we've had one conversation that Jessica we've met with and Mallory to talk to some risk areas. So we definitely need to have more to see if we're seeing a trend. I apologize, I don't have too many yet.
Okay.
But I will say the things we're hearing are things we hear at other institutions. So looking forward to what else we learned from the leadership team and the survey results. Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, just the left-hand wheel you see here, I know I mentioned the risk assessment will help inform the internal audit plan. And then when those audits are identified, we'll go through planning, reporting, and fieldwork. Or planning, fieldwork, reporting, excuse me, and that follow-up and just Regent Cox, I know you mentioned kind of what we'll take on. So we'll see what's already still open and remaining based on the former internal audit provider, and we're happy to make sure those things don't fall between the cracks and keep moving forward on the status of those.
That's good.
My goal was to stay brief, but happy to answer any questions from here.
I just want to say, welcome aboard as well. Look forward to working with you.
You as well. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think it's a good process. I mean, from the standpoint of new eyes and, you know, looking at things maybe that we're missing. So I think it's a great process. I think it's been handled well, and we're glad to have you guys on.
Yeah, well, thank you. No, we feel very welcome. We're excited to get started.
Okay, thank you so much.
Sure, I'll go ahead and drop. Thank you all. It was nice to meet everyone, and thank you, Todd.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
So let's move to external audit, Todd. Let's talk about the RFP.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So when we were discussing internal audit last year, and the board had said that they wanted us to do an RFP every 5 years or so, it was time, really the schedule was aligned so that we would do both in the same year. And we asked the board and received permission to extend that to next year, so we weren't bringing on 2 new sets of auditors simultaneously. As we go out this year for the external audit, we would like to come back to you in December with a full proposal. But this last year, as you may remember, because of trying to coordinate the number of schedules with everyone on the audit committee, the RFP team consisted of myself, 2 people from the system office, 1 regent, 2 college business officers, and 1 chancellor, although that chancellor had to step off at the last minute. And so I wanted to bring this up as a matter of discussion to say, did that work for you? Did that not work for you? If that did, we will bring back a similar proposal for external audit, because that process will start at the completion of the December report from our external auditors. We will then go into the new RFP process to begin on July 1st of 27. If you felt that there was something in the process that was lacking or missing, then we'd like to take that feedback in and come back with a proposal then, so that we have the best information we can to put an RFP together. And from our perspective, I think it worked well. We had 15 different audit firms that came for the internal audit. We had lots of robust discussion, and Baker Tilly won the day at the end with lots of input from everybody. But I do want to make sure, because they report to you, I want to make sure that you're comfortable with that process if we were to bring something similar forward again.
Yeah, I think the process we went through worked extremely well. My question, I guess, Todd, would be, are there ways that we can be more helpful to you in this? I mean, would you like to see it handled, any differently, or would you like to see us involved in a different way? I felt like that, it was pretty seamless and ended with a good result, but you're the one who lives with it daily. So if there's, from a process perspective, if you got thoughts, we'd sure like to hear about the thing.
Well, thank you. I think that it worked very well. I would say that next time around, I think we'd like to have a completely different roster of folks, just so other people are giving feedback and input into this. So it would mean, at least one regent who is willing to be, really engaged in this process. We really appreciate all the feedback that we got from Regent Stevens in the process. That was very helpful. And he asked questions from a board perspective that were, cogent specifically to that particular issue. So as long as we have, I think, somebody representing the regions who is willing to make that commitment, that's the most important thing, I think, that we would need from you in this process.
We could certainly do that. I
would
was
say,
very comfortable in volunteering James Lee once again.
yeah, I would say it is, if whoever it is, and I'll be glad to do it if nobody wants to, but it's very time consuming as we know, was what I'm saying. I didn't realize there was that time consuming, the information, the meetings and stuff like that. So ever who the region is, and if it is me, that's fine, but ever who the region is, we need to be sure that they understand it is very time consuming to go through all of the documents and information.
Well said. Any other thoughts on process for Todd in this process? I think staggering was a good idea. I think that the process as we had it will work fine. We'll make sure that you have appropriate input from regents, and if there's anything else you want to add to it, I think any of us would be more than happy to entertain it, but it worked pretty well.
Thank you. We felt like it did too, and we just want to make sure, I want to make sure that I'm not getting ahead of the regents. You are the ones to whom they report, and I will say the process has worked very well, and our new internal auditors, actually, it has been so far been a very positive working relationship thus far. We're all clear about our roles, and we want to have a more comprehensive approach to addressing issues across the system.
I think I think another thing that we need to consider, and President Quarles, I'd be interested in your opinion on this. I mean, the internal audit is one thing; it's very important. The external piece of this certainly is going to get a lot of scrutiny in years to come. So we want to be the best we can possibly be. I'm stating the obvious, but I mean, do you feel like the external is probably going to become even more under scrutiny as years go by?
I don't know. I think we're sitting in a really good position right now, especially with our appropriators and other policymakers, that a lot of the hard work internally, I think, has been recognized. And so I welcome this opportunity. I think that criticism of higher ed is going to continue to be a topic nationally that we look at. And so for me, I'd rather have an extra set of eyeballs to tell us areas that we need to have improvement upon. And in terms of my opinion on scrutiny, I think it's going to happen no matter what. And so let's just get it right.
Right. Okay. Todd, you got everything you need from that conversation? Anything else we need to glean from it?
No, just if anyone has any suggestions, if you thought you wanted something different in the process, just let me know. But we'll put together a proposal for the committee's meeting in November and the board's meeting in December.
Do you anticipate pretty good response to that?
I do. I do. It's a fairly large contract for a lot of firms. And so I was actually surprised at how much we received around the internal audit. I was
Yeah.
expecting maybe 6 or 7. I was surprised at 15. So I think, I think it's a contract that's a good thing for them, and we'll get a lot of people and firms wanting to weigh in on that.
Okay. Is there any new business that committee needs to address? Anything anybody has on their mind? I guess I just have one that I'm curious how Regent Witten is doing without high school football in her life.
Can you hear me, Russ? I'm doing actually pretty well, knowing that we are now, let's see, just a little over 15 days from game 1 and at Fordham. So college football is Colgate college football is my new favorite thing.
Yeah. Little bit of an extra commute though, but
Just a bit, yeah, little bit further than Bracken County High School. That's correct.
So how's he doing up there, Brianna?
He's excelling. He was actually taking reps the other day with first team. They've moved him over to D tackle and nose guard, playing him in both spots. So
nice.
yeah, calls his mama every day. And well, I at least get a proof of life, maybe like a Snapchat picture or a picture of his bed, or but it's as you're well aware, Russ, it's about 6:45 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. They're right in the heart of camp right now. So
What's the mascot of where he is now?
the Raiders. Let's
The
rate. Yeah.
And I'm sure it's a little strange not having him at home.
Yes, it is. I'm developing new hobbies. I'm playing a lot of mahjong, needle pointing quite a bit, reading more books, doing all those things.
Sounds like to me you could review RFPs with James Lee. That's fair.
I mean, I would be happy to put my set of eyes on it. Remember though, Russ, I am the English teacher. I don't math very well. So
Well, I just remind people that we do math well. We just don't get credit for it from those financial types. We understand our own.
that's true. I told my husband the other day, I said, if I say, hey, I'm going to do this math in my head, and I said, just know that I'm counting on your answer, not mine. But
Well,
I'm
I
happy to
appreciate-
help, Russ, if you'd like.
I appreciate your service, and I understand what it's like to have one leave the house. It's a little bit weird, so we'll hang in there with you. But
Thank you.
if there's nothing else that we need to talk about, I'm just going to say thanks for your service on this committee. It is important work. It's really, we've come a long way, and now we've got a new chapter that's going to be even more, I think, intense with new auditors and selecting a new, and we just need to stay on our toes through this process and continue the momentum that we've got. So, President Quarles, anything you want to add, or Chair Hamilton, before we let Jessica dismiss this austere group?
I do have as a quick announcement, but Chair Hamilton, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
The school starts back next week, and so not only our students, but we're welcoming back our faculty and staff, many of whom worked over the summer. So I've been attending some convocations. There's a lot of energy, and we're celebrating a historic year on the stats that I've continued to repeat. We're knee deep in legislative implementation. So another reminder, we're going to have an expansion of the board, and we sent out a timeline explaining that. Hopefully, if you have any questions, just please let us know. Also, CPE is having its annual trusteeship conference in Owensboro, September 28th through 29th. And this is a conference geared towards Board of Regents and trustees. And so if you'd like to attend, just let us know. We'd like to have a presence there, and jam-packed agenda. We'll have Shannon send out the details on that. And then just a reminder about our upcoming Board of Regents meeting in Middlesboro, beautiful part of the state. Dinner the night before on September 9th, meeting date September 10th. And then if you don't mind, Chair, we just communicate to you all that yesterday we unfortunately had a tragic loss of a system office employee, Carter Peterson. And so if you don't mind, just keep his family in your prayers. As you can imagine, it's been a somber attitude here in Versailles with this loss. So just keep his family in your prayers.
Certainly sorry to hear it.
Yeah.
Hear about that.
I'm so sorry.
Any, folks that work with you there, are you bringing in anybody to help people through that if necessary?
We do. We have counseling resources available, and as you can imagine, we're thinking of ways to honor him.
Chair Hamilton, anything?
No, thank you. It's a good report today. Well done.
Very much appreciate it. Jessica, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Motion by Regent Powers, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Regent Whitten. Any objection to the motion to adjourn?
No.
Motion passes by consensus. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Good seeing everybody.